All right, what's going on, everybody? Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Those that are watching us live streaming on LinkedIn and YouTube today. I'm your host, HD. And if you didn't know, I am a cybersecurity professional, and this is the Textual Talk podcast where we talk about tech news, careers in tech, especially when it comes to cybersecurity, kind of going against some of the myths that are in cybersecurity and breaking down like the different avenues that are in cybersecurity that the person that's interested in getting into cybersecurity doesn't know about. And that's what we're going to do today when we're going to talk about GRC, stands for governance, risk, and compliance. And we have a GRC professional here who is also doing some other stuff in his career, but I figured this would be a good day to talk about it. GRC is one of those careers that I typically tell a lot of my clients about, like when they're trying to transition. They most of the time have a lot of transferable skills that can go directly into GRC first and trying to build themselves up with all these other technical skills where you're going to be competing with a lot of people that might have been doing it longer than you. And so that's why I always reference GRC. And I also know there are technical people in GRC as well. So I don't want people to believe that I'm just saying, you'd have to be non-technical to be in GRC. That's definitely not what I mean. But without further ado, let's bring up our guest real quick. Hey, Abdie, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Monter? How you doing, brother?
Pretty good, man. So for our viewers and our listeners, we'll talk briefly, kind of just open up real quick. If you guys want to Rare, I think it was like last week, Reddit announced they had been hacked. And like most breaches, it came through phishing. I think they said it was like a highly sophisticated like phishing attempt. And I don't think they said any customers' information or users' information was affected. So that seems good, but we heard that before. LastPass told us that, and we saw how that went. But the fact that Reddit got in front of it so fast, it's cool to me. And you know what? To be honest, what's funny is this happened to me this week. Funny enough, whoever the person is, they didn't, in a sense, like I knew it happened right after I did it, so it kind of was funny to me. But whoever the person was, must either know me or know who I communicate with, because they sent me an email that looks like from one of my friends where we were discussing some stuff. But not, and it looked. I didn't really check it, but it looked just like her domain. But after I put the info in, I was like, this don't make sense. So right after that, I changed my password. And the funny thing is, and I'm trying to admit this to people online because like it can happen to anybody if you're just not paying attention. I think I just did it real fast and I really didn't look at it, and it was like I was on my phone. But the funny thing was I stay up late at night and at night I had started seeing this person was trying to like log into my stuff, which is funny, but they didn't realize I had already changed my stuff, and I have MFA. And even if I didn't change it and they tried to give me a prompt, I wouldn't press yes on it because that's happened a couple of times, even like with my regular account. Somebody was like trying to log on to like my Xbox Live before. But the funny thing was, like, I guess they thought I thought ahead of this. They thought that the my typical email that I use for like info for people responding and stuff like that, they thought that was like the main email address on my website, connected to my website. So I guess they thought they were going to try to use that, and then they tried to request a code to make them account. Oh, it was funny. It really was funny to me. And I don't know if they were in Oregon or not, but if you listening, I'm familiar with your game, like that Shaq meme says. But all in all, I just want to be transparent about that. I think it could happen to anybody, and sometimes that's why you just gotta be vigilant, and pay attention. I mean, just like somebody saying, "Dang it, I left the keys in the house, in the door overnight." That's happened. It did happen to me. My dad used to do it all the time, but nothing happened.
Yeah. I got hit actually about 2 months ago with it wasn't a phishing email, but it was on my Instagram. A close friend of mine, he DM'd me, and given that it was the holiday season, he was telling me, "Hey man, I'm struggling. I'm going through it right now. I don't have any money for shoes. I got kicked out of my house. Can you send me $50?" Most of the time I'm skeptical, but this is a good friend of mine that I've known for a fair amount of time.
Right.
So I cashed out him $50. It turns out his social media account got hijacked, and I got played for $50. But Yeah, man. These social engineers, especially phishing or
Hmm.
social media threat actors, they'll play on your emotion, and even me, I'm a cybersecurity professional,
Right.
right? Like
That's why I
like
wanted to
I'm,
say that to the newbies. Like it's like,
yeah,
when you wonder how these things can happen, it can happen to anybody. But that's why alerting and tooling is so important to have that,
hmm
defense in depth that you learn about when you're trying to study for like that good old security plus.
hmm
So
yeah,
yeah, man, I hope you guys, listen to this and like, hey, if it happened to you, it's cool. Just know that you did it. I think that's the difference between us. Like we knew right after it something happened. Some people think what they did was legit, and
mm,
that's how they get caught.
yeah,
So it was like a split second right after it. And I had screenshotted it and I sent it to shout out to Tiara. Like they made like
yeah.
her business like solutions by Swain. And so they made a domain like that and sent it to me. I was like, me and Tiara were just talking about some stuff. So that's why it's like it was weird to me. I was like, why would they do that? So I'm actually gonna follow up with her next week to see like is anybody else she knows been targeted. But besides that, man, we got the man of the hour here, Mr. Abdi. Can you go ahead and kind of introduce yourself?
Hey, what's up, folks? My name is Abdi Mohammed. I'm a I'm a senior cybersecurity engineer at Lockheed Martin. I actually just transitioned into a new role doing cloud engineering. But yeah, I grew up in San Diego, California. My background is in GRC. My original plan was to become an economist, but I didn't want to become an economist anymore. I thought, getting into IT would be awesome. And started my first real role in GRC. Did that for about, was in the GRC space for about 3.5 years. Now focused more on cloud. And yeah, I'm really big into hiking. I'm a big anime fan. For those of you who are anime nerds, come talk to me. I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan. I like Yu Yu Hakusho. What else? Bleach, One Piece, you name it. Attack on Titan. I love anime. Anime is life. And then another thing I like doing is going on hikes. I like to, keep myself healthy. Going on hikes, tapping in with nature is really fun. I like going to the gym. I enjoy doing boxing. I actually just injured my wrist about a week ago, but about to get that checked up because having injuries are not fun. Keeps you away from exercise and that kind of messes with your mental a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much me. I like anime. I like trying new foods, trying new ethnic foods, and I'm a big boxing fan.
That's dope, bro. I didn't know that about you by being the boxing fan or the anime fan. And you named one of like my top three animes when you said Yu Yu Hakusho. That's like one of my favorites.
Man, Yu Yu Hakusho, dude. That's a lot of folks sleep on that one.
Yeah, man. Funny enough though, the fact that you're a boxing fan, I'm gonna ask you this real quick. And I know the people watching this don't necessarily probably watch boxing, but one of my favorite boxers, and I want to say favorite, not the best, but one of my favorite boxers is Adrian Broner, right? And he was preparing for his comeback fight next week. He had been at the ring like 2 years, had a lot of stuff going on with Al Heyman and them. But this was his third opponent. That like the first person he was supposed to fight was Ivan Redcash. His promoter got in the way of that. Hank
Mm,
Lundy couldn't fight him, and so they found a replacement late, Michael Williams Jr. Well,
mm.
a week, mind you, the fight is supposed to be next Saturday, so a week from now. Yesterday, it was reported that his jaw got broke, in training camp, so he can't fight right now. And I guess the fight is either off or
Yikes.
postponed. So I'm just like, why? First of all, I was like, they had like I haven't heard too much of people whose jaws getting broke at 16-ounce gloves when sparring. And two, why are you heavily sparring like that a week out from the fight?
That is pretty true. Why are you in the Gladiator Arena 1 week out before the fight? That's crazy.
Yeah, man, it was. I don't know. It's crazy to me. But so you mentioned that you want to be an economist, and so that was like kind of one of my questions for you. Is like your background before you got into cybersecurity. So talk a little bit about that, and then it's going to lead up into the question like what made you want to pivot into cybersecurity.
What made me want to pivot into cybersecurity?
Well first like kind of like your background, kind of like you mentioned economist and some of the other things that you're interested in, and then kind of what made you gravitate towards cybersecurity.
Okay, gotcha. So originally, the reason why I wanted to become an economist was because when I got into undergrad, I realized how interested I was in the way the market works, the way the economy works, the way businesses work. Those topics were very fascinating to me. Understanding how capitalism works, how, how inflation, macroeconomics, microeconomics, how the Federal Reserve works. Those topics really fascinated me. And then, eventually, after getting my associate's degree in economics, I went to university. And when I went to university, I realized I transferred to university from community college to university. And I realized I no longer wanted to become an economist, mainly because I'd have to go to school all the way to my PhD. So I'd have to get my master's degree and I'd have to get a PhD to make some good money. So I realized, all right, well, if I want to make good money, then, I'd have to major in something that's technology focused. Not have to, but, it's something for me. It made sense. If I want to make the quickest amount of money, fresh out of college, then looking getting into tech made the most sense. So I looked at all the majors, and it looked like economics and management information systems, in pretty much a business IT major, aligned pretty well. I was missing like 2, 3 classes, so I changed my major to MIS. For those who don't know what MIS is, that's management information systems. It's pretty much the study of using information systems technology to solve business problems. I studied that, and then after meeting with different individuals, tech professionals who were making a fair amount of money in different fields such as software engineering, cybersecurity engineering, and network engineering. After talking with these individuals, it made it very clear that hey, if I'm going to get into a field, it makes sense to most likely pursue cyber because cyber was emerging at the time. Oh, it's still pretty pretty big and it's getting bigger. But this was back in 2018, 2019 timeframe. And yeah, I realized, I want to get into cyber. What do I need to do? After going to a lot of networking events, after studying for my Security Plus, and I failed it twice, by the way, Honor. I failed it twice. For those of you who fail these certification exams, it's okay. You'll live. All right. I failed I failed Security Plus twice, and I didn't get it until after I got my first cybersecurity job. But learning the content of the Security Plus, leveraging my internship experience and networking with the appropriate people and going to conferences and conventions. That's pretty much how I got my first cybersecurity role. And yeah, I'm gonna admit I did it for the money, and there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously now I'm much more passionate about my line of work. I'm much more passionate about the field and the community, the people that are in it. But it wasn't always like this. When I first started, it was mainly for money. So if you're trying to get into cybersecurity for money, so you can take care of your loved ones yourself and have a better, higher earning potential, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't let anyone shame you, and tell you, oh yeah, you shouldn't be in it for the money. Well, come on, come on, come on. Like, you
Yeah,
know why we're
man.
here.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because you said a lot of good stuff. So shout out to you. Just like me, you figured out, hey, what you're majoring in initially probably wasn't gonna make the most sense for you short term because that's how I feel about architecture.
Yeah.
So
Oh, you an architect?
nah, I when I got to college, my major was architecture.
That's pretty cool,
I
man.
took wood shop and welding in high school, so I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be an architect. And I saw how busy they were, how much better and naturally better at drawing and drafting that other people were than me. I was like,
Hmm.
I don't know if I even like it like that to go through this, to just not even get paid the amount that I feel like I should get paid right after I graduate to put all this work in. These people used to
Yeah,
go to the architecture building, they were sleeping there because they had all these different projects. So I was like, for
man.
me, that's not, that's not what it is right now, Chief. Um, but no, I like the fact that you said, hey, you got your cert after you got your first job because
Yes.
being a career coach, I always deal with different people. They're always worrying about Security Plus, and it's not. Matter of fact, I was talking to a gentleman last night, I think on LinkedIn through our messages, and he was talking about studying for Security Plus or whatever. And I was like, that's cool, but it's not really going to help you fare better in these interviews we're talking about right now. It's like you need to work on those skills that you may be missing when it comes to these roles. And
Hmm.
so the fact that you said understanding the content is more important than the cert is very true because
Oh,
I tell
yes.
people like that too. Like, they want people to get the Holy Trinity Network Plus, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, as long as you kind of understand basic networking, you don't need Network Plus. I mean, if you just want to, if you're going to do that, you might as well get CCNA. But as long as you
Hmm.
understand it, you're good. So
Yeah, that's so true.
talk about that first internship also, because that's one of the things I try to push people in college for. It's like, hey, let's try to get you an internship, because that's your key right there. Because not only if, like, they may want to hire you full time, but if you do good enough there, network there, they may not bring you back, but the people there may know someone that may need somebody, and that's how you start expanding your network and get better jobs. So can you touch on, like, kind of what your internship was, and how beneficial was that, for your career so far?
For sure, for sure. So for me, so I went to school for 5 years. I was in college for 5 years. That's pretty common for people who are like STEM majors, and other disciplines as well. But so for the first 4 years, I did medical records, and I scanned medical records at a local clinic in San Diego. And then for that one year, my fifth year, that's when I did my internship. The way I got my internship was actually through networking, and I knew someone within a school organizations in college. And as he was graduating, he kind of handed that internship to me and said, "Hey, you could do an internship on campus where you're working with some basic IT stuff and doing cool things." And I said, "Oh, cool, let's do it. I don't have an internship. I need an internship." So I did the internship, and I did a lot of different things. I worked on Windows operating systems. I re-imaged computers. I patched some computers. I did vulnerability assessments using Qualys. Honor, are you familiar with Qualys?
Yes, I'm familiar.
Yeah, so it's like regular household vulnerability scanning tool, and although I wasn't responsible for the analysis of the results, my job was to just do the scan itself and then send those reports out, to the appropriate asset owners and let them know that, hey, they have to remediate this in a certain amount of time. I also did a security awareness training presentation to the individuals, my colleagues in the office. So I was just I was an intern, but I was working with different individuals, who weren't, people who were in tech. There were, think administrators, think, deans, etc. So my role was kind of educating them for a period of time, what they can do to make sure that they're safe when it comes to using this technology, such as, security awareness training, like for passwords. Make sure your password's strong. Make sure it has a mix of characters, that sort of thing. So I also gave a presentation on LastPass too, although they got hit. I think they got hit a couple times in the past year. I believe so. I could be wrong. But I gave a presentation on LastPass, why it's important to have a password management tool instead of memorizing millions of passwords. And I explained it like, hey, this is like, you could memorize one password, right? And then, have access to a bunch of other passwords that you need for different tools, different applications, kind of like a keychain, right? You have a keychain and it has all your different keys. But if you lose the keychain, aka the master password, you lose all the keys. So that's pretty much how I explained to them the importance of managing that one password, so you could have access to the rest of your passwords to access everything else within your software suite. So yeah, internships are important. That's how I landed mine. Those were some of the cool projects I did. In my internship, I learned the importance of being patient, because my boss that I worked for, he was the VP of information technology at campus on the university I went to, and he was very, very he was kind, extremely kind, but he was very structured in the way he wanted things. And what I learned from him was the importance of paying attention to details, and also learned, the importance of being able to learn and adapt. The FIO, figure it out. That's what he would always tell me, figure it out. So I'd ask him a question, say, oh, no, no, figure it out. And, and having him teaching me the importance of being resourceful, I think it's the most underrated skill in tech and any industry. And I think Honor, I think you've touched up upon this before, right? About, I think, one of your videos where being resourceful, you just have to be resourceful. If you're more resourceful than others, that's how you get further. That's how you get ahead.
Yeah, got to be resourceful, and life teaches us that. Job teaches us that. School teaches us that. So yeah. a resourceful person is a person to watch out for. It's no
Dangerous.
situation, right? No situation you could put them in that they won't be ready for. I want to shout out my guy Rob from Master IT for the support and the super chat, and
Oh, shout out
also
to Rob, man.
yeah,
Shout out
man,
to
and
Rob.
also so he does do a zero to hero IT program. So if you are interested in that, you don't know anything about IT whatsoever, reach out to him. Good material all on his channel, really. Like if you just wanted to see what he's about, dope guy. But so that's cool. Your job kind of sounded similar to like my college job as well, kind of like being like just a student information technology assistant. Funny enough, though,
Hmm.
I don't even know if my little brother's watching right now, but I ended up my boss is still at the same school. Shout out to Louisiana Tech University, and my younger brother is there right now as a freshman, and he's working there now too. And I think their process
Amazing.
is a little bit better now. Like they're a little bit more together than we were like back then. So I was like, hopefully he can be farther along than me. That's the hard thing too. It's like when you're dealing with I don't even know if he's considered to be Gen Z or not. He might be, but
I think it's
dealing.
anything after 96 or
I,
97.
I think it's like 94, 95.
Is
I
it
don't know.
94? You could,
But I
damn.
don't know when the cutoff is. Like for example, he's born in his birthday is 2004. So he'll be 19 this year.
Oh, he's definitely Gen Z.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
And
definitely
then
Gen Z.
and then my brother and him will be 18 this year. And then my
Yeah.
sister will be 15 this year. Yeah. So we I'm the oldest. But
Mm.
what made you okay, let's do two things right now. For the people that's coming in, appreciate y'all for watching. Make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel. Um, what made you so what is GRC? And then what made you choose GRC in the beginning? Because you've been a professional, what, roughly 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah, 4.5.
Okay. Yeah. And so back then, about 4 or 5 years ago, GRC wasn't like it was known, I guess, by
Mm.
people that's kind of doing it, but it wasn't as talked about as it is now. It's like GRC has like become like the cool kid now in a sense. Like nobody used to talk about GRC. Not even me. Like I recently like kind of found out like it was this subset of things like a couple of years ago because it wasn't something that was kind of like advertised a lot. It was mostly you just probably see like auditor roles or maybe assessments,
Mhm.
but you didn't really see like GRC analysts and like those words that you see now, like you see on LinkedIn. So kind
Right.
of tell us about like what's GRC and what made you want to go to GRC route.
For sure, for sure. So GRC is defined as the strategy of aligning IT, information technology, with business goals while managing risks and making sure that your business is operating within the confines of the law. So making sure that you're not breaking the law. That's GRC in a nutshell. There are a lot of different GRC roles out there. There's, the auditor, the policy analyst, people whose roles are, they have to create policies and procedures for an organization, people who have to do security audits, information technology audits that are compliant with certain security frameworks or technology frameworks. For me, to be quite frank with you, getting into GRC wasn't really a goal of mine. I just wanted to get into cybersecurity. And I fell into it, when I started my first role at my current company that I still work for. So it wasn't for me, it wasn't something that, oh yeah, I want to get in GRC. It was more of, hey, this is my background. These are the certain skills that I had. These are the skills that I have, and I kind of fell into it. And yeah, I never looked back. Here we are today, and it's been great for me. It's been great for my career. Really, working in GRC, you get an understanding of cybersecurity at a 30,000 foot level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that analogy and pretty much how you kind of sum that together. And your sentiment is what I share with everyone all the time. And it's kind of something that I've been saying a lot long like this year. We've seen tech, cybersecurity, a lot of things kind of change this year to kind of, I would say, probably kind of stabilize, at least for the people who are early career. And a lot of them are trying to be like the people who are 5, 10, 15 years in. And I think
Hmm.
that's the issue a lot of younger people are running into. They want to, and I want to say this is not people who have worked in other disciplines and have transferable skills that could warrant them a high paying role. This is for people who don't have the necessarily job with the transferable skills that they can walk into certain roles, to where you got to crawl before you can walk. And the key word was say, hey, I just want to get in. That's why I tell people all the time, hey, let's just get in, and then once you get in, you can pivot into something else.
Oh
The
yeah.
objective is to just get in. If the salary, if it could just pay your bills, do it, and then you can eventually get more. Because a lot of people are trying to imitate. That's why I reposted my reel and my YouTube short about, like, the fictional day in the life stuff, like
On
that.
TikTok.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
that's why I did that, because like, no, this is definitely, not true. Like the people, if you normally use job sites, and that's why we're going to segue into this question, different type of job sites will tell you about, like, kind of what the average salary is or whatever. It's only a certain percentile that get, higher salaries than average, and their job most of the time is very important. And most of the time they might be responsible for either creating or breaking or fixing things. And yeah, they might be able to finish their task probably like 4 hours or something like that. However, if something happens, when it's time for the rubber to meet the road, they got to be ready at all times. They might say they need them to fly somewhere, come do this or that. Like, that's the thing. And that's the thing I've always said. Like, I've made a video about kind of like, or talking about some of the things, like, even when people want to come do SOC work or whatever, not fully understanding, hey, most of the time a SOC is a 24/7 team. And based on your level on the team, it could be any given time and say, hey, we need to take your laptop out. We got like all hands on deck situation. And you gotta be ready. You could be you could be doing something. They don't care what you're doing, because hey, you're getting paid a higher salary than most people in the country. So this is what's expected of you when stuff happens. But with me talking about money, let's get into I think, like I tell people all the time, I've showed people this on my TikToks when I've told my clients about it, and I kind of showed them jobs about GRC and what they could potentially pay. But for you, well, like we said, like 4 years ago, it's really hard to say, because GRC isn't just one role. It's so many different roles that would go under like GRC. So how about this? Like I guess we'll say like the type of GRC position that you did. What would be like a we'll say like a decent or at least average entry level salary for the type of position that you were doing?
So full transparency, when I started my role, I got 70 in Florida, 70K. So, you know, I don't know. I want to say that that would be the average, but then again, that's 4 years ago, right? And inflation's up, so so I'd probably say somewhere between 65 and 75, for entry level GRC roles, and obviously plus or minus depending on where you live. So if you're in Alabama,
Right.
you might be making 65 or less. But if you're in like San Fran, you might be making pushing maybe 80, 75, 85 around there. But then again, there's a lot of factors plays into a role, your negotiation power,
Mm,
your leverage, but there's a lot of different things that play into it. Like if you're coming from a different industry, but you have job experience, that kind of that does transfer over, and you can articulate that and sell that, and you can charge much more for your first GRC role. But for me, I think 65 to 75 is the sweet spot for average entry level GRC roles, and I think that's a little higher than the stock analyst roles. Am I right, Andre, or is that or depends?
it depends. Like
Mm.
I think I told people, like, I think for my first role, I think my total comp was like either 75, 78, one or two.
Wow, that's pretty good. Wait a minute. Maybe I should have went the sock route.
But but like you also say, it's also contingent on the company where you work at that time.
Yeah.
Technically that company was Intel, and then they switched and then became McAfee. So it could be
Mm.
different, because I know stocks that pay people way less than that starting out, and they
Yeah, I've
even
heard
pay
of some
people
horror
more.
stories on that. Yeah.
So yeah, and like, so were you on the West Coast at the time when you got your first role?
No, that was actually in Florida,
Okay,
in
okay,
Orlando, Florida.
right.
Orlando.
Cool. Yeah, no, because like Florida is like does have like a higher cost of living in certain areas, and so I'm glad that you brought that up too, because there some companies, and I actually wish they could get it. I understand why they do it, but it actually just make more sense for them to kind of get away with it. Like some companies are smart; they'll pay you just based on where their company is. So sometimes you could get a remote gig, and you could be staying, Louisiana, Mississippi somewhere, and they're based in New York or California, and get California and New York pay. and
Listen.
then sometimes they'll try to say, oh, where do you stay, and try to base your pay off of where you stay, which I don't think is fair, because you would pay someone that lives somewhere else to do the same job more, and we're doing the same thing. Like, hey, just pay, like, just get that out. Like, don't do that. Just pay like a normal thing. And what's going to mess up a lot of people now is California and New York are doing this freaking salary transparency thing, but they're not being too transparent.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on that? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, on the pay transparency thing with
Man,
Colorado, New York,
some
California.
companies are actually doing it like the right way. Like, it's have a
Okay.
reasonable range for the salary. Then you see
Right.
Jermaine posted something. I think the salary went from like 70,000 to 999, thousand.
That must have been a Netflix role, huh?
Man, I don't know what it was, but I was like,
Yeah.
they can't be serious with like doing that. Like,
Yeah.
that's stupid. Like, that's
Yeah.
too out of a range to almost pretty much making a meal from a job that started. That doesn't even make sense. And I think they're just BSing it. And so that's why I think a lot of people raise concerns over that. It's like, hey, a lot of companies are going to misuse this when it comes to being salary transparent, because you don't really know what anybody's getting paid. Only way you'll know is if you have friends that do the similar role, and that's how you can figure out what's something justified to ask for.
Gotcha.
Got you. And also, guys, ask your questions. We will answer questions towards the end from the audience. That way, we don't detract the podcast. So, what would be some good? We'll do it like this. We'll say skills they didn't need to learn to do like a GRC role, and we'll just really focus on what you do. That way, like if I ever have someone else that did some in GRC but different, they could talk about theirs. But the things that you did, I know you brought up like vulnerability scanning where Qualys was one, but what are some other things that they could do and learn in order to land a GRC type of position?
Yeah, so depending on the industry, and GRC roles, they do vary, depending on what industry that you work in. And there's also the enterprise GRC, and also the GRC roles that are focused on on systems. So I've worked on like embedded systems, think platforms, weapon systems. So my role was focused on you know making sure that we're compliant with minimal security requirements specified by our government. So one of the things that you'd have to be really, in my opinion, really good with is being able to read through, read through, and read through, read through control text. So if you look at, a security framework like NIST, or NIST SP 800-53, NIST SP 800-137, these or NIST, the NIST cybersecurity framework. When you're reading through these documents, in my opinion, they're very dense. There's a lot of vocabulary words used. It's not sometimes it's not plain English, and you have to be able to read through and decipher what they're trying to tell you. And being able to have a strong vocabulary, and being able to have your thesaurus up and look up definitions of certain words, and being able to draw that picture for yourself or you understand it is very important. Another skill that's very important is also the ability to write. So whenever, let's say you're doing a security audit on an information system, or like on Windows operating system or Linux operating system, you have to provide justification. You have to provide verbiage as to why this this vulnerability, or this audit finding is not compliant. You have to type out justification, and you have to be able to bend the English, not bend, but you have to be able to use the English language and articulate yourself in a way that makes sense to your stakeholders, such as your systems or software engineers or directors or VPs, etc., where they also understand, hey, this is why this is not compliant, and here's what we can do to make sure that we get compliant. That way we can continue to operate our business and make sure that we're not hit with hefty fines. So, communication is a big one. Being able to verbal communication, written communications are pretty big ones. And Honor, did you ask like what education they should be pursuing as well, or?
No, not necessarily education, because
Okay, gotcha.
that's kind of nuanced in a sense.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people have been, whether they believe it or not, have been following policies at their jobs for a while and doing some things that the job maybe tells them that they have to do to remain compliant that they might not be aware of. Like
Yes.
I don't know if my guy, I think it's Ed is the one who used to be like a CEO and did a lot of compliance type of stuff. Like I want to say at correctional facilities, and he was telling me about some of the stuff he did. I say you have all the transferable skills to do this GRC stuff. You just got to learn
Oh yes.
some of the stuff that you would need to know to do a GRC role. And so that's what when I say how you got transferable skills, like it's a lot of people who have like a lot of my people that are in banking. They
Oh yeah.
have a lot of transferable skills, especially if they had to do some audits. I had a client like she's did a couple of audits at her credit union. So I was like, you got these skills. I was like, you should probably get this CISA. And I don't really
Hmm.
recommend. So how I recommend stuff you should get is based on how many times I see it come up in the job description. And I know based
Gotcha.
on her experience that would have benefited her in trying to land some type of auditory role or whatever. So learning that, like you broke up some of the. So do this. What would be the top three frameworks that they should know? Just bare minimum. They don't have to be an expert on them, but knowing them enough to talk about them in an interview so they can have them on their resume. What would be the frameworks that they should know to get into GRC?
Yeah, so frameworks an individual should be familiar with. Again, it really depends on the industry, but just off the top of my head, understanding the NIST cybersecurity framework, I think that one's pretty good. Understanding the PCI DSS payment card industry data security standard framework, I think. Well, can't even say it's a framework. Is it a framework? I guess it's a framework. Um, PCI DSS, and then also understanding HIPAA. So all three that I just mentioned. For those who don't know what HIPAA, that's the Health Insurance Patient Portability Act, and that one's focused on making sure that healthcare data is protected and healthcare data is quote unquote secure. So each one I just mentioned is focused on it's information security, but each one's focused on minimal security requirements based off of their industry.
Funny enough, well, not funny, but ironically, the also thing about two of those frameworks you said, uh, you could specialize and niche into them and make a career dealing with strictly like PCI, or if
This
we
is true.
go with HIPAA, or we throw some of the other ones out. You got like things like high trust and some of these other frameworks that have been released. You could niche down into those. So that's the beauty of like just getting your foot in the door and saying, I really like dealing with like medical, type of data information. Let me go see what else I can do in HIPAA, where you can either start consulting or whatever you want to do.
Hmm.
So that's why, like, in your beginning of your career, you'll probably be more of a generalist, but once you start niching down, you're gonna have a certain skill set that not too many people have, and it's gonna always require you to have a job or at least be able to find another job fairly quickly. So, and we got somebody else saying some other stuff in the comments. So you guys take these notes about that. So what are like some of like the most, and we talked about this kind of when we opened up the pod, but what are some of the most significant risk you see that are facing businesses like today? Like what are some of those when it comes to a compliance uh, type of thing?
So I think this is a lazy answer, but obviously humans are always the biggest risk, right? So for the in the GRC, when you say GRC, the first thing that comes up is governance, right? Top-down strategy. It focuses on culture of an organization. So I think the biggest risk is not having a culture of security awareness, a culture of cybersecurity, where the leaders of the organization, we're talking C-suite, they make it very clear that cybersecurity is a priority for them, and they create that culture all the way down to their middle managers, all the way down to the operational people who are in the trenches getting things done. So I think given the biggest risk is humans, and given that the biggest risk is making sure that you have a strong security culture in place, you know, yeah, having a strong security culture in place is important. So top down, I think having a culture of security awareness is probably the most important thing, especially when you're talking GRC, governance is number one. So
Dope. So, um, how do you keep up with like the latest cyber news and cyber trends? when it comes to your job. And I know that, we'll talk a little bit later, kind of like what you have pivoted into. So people can know that when I just say you can start somewhere and pivot, that I'm not just talking to talk. But what do you use or some favorite sites you use to kind of keep up with the news, things that are happening in cyber that you may have to bring like to your manager or teammates' attention that you guys might have to look into based on your job?
So for me, mainly, I'm gonna be honest, I go on YouTube and I look up different YouTube channels. Some of my favorite YouTube channels is Gerald Olger's Simply Cyber, where he does this daily cyber threat brief, and he goes over the daily, like what's going. The daily cyber threat brief is pretty much what's going on, all things cybersecurity in the news, what big hacks just happened, what new vulnerabilities were discovered, you know, what industry trends are happening within our line of work. So it's kind of a one-stop shop, if that makes sense, Henri. So I used to go on different websites, and see what's going on, but now, I'm a lazy person, to be honest. So I like just going on one YouTube channel, right, and just like boom, right there. And also it's like tool chatter. You learn a lot there as well. I'll be honest, it's crazy, man, how far your channel has come in the past few years. And just seeing the different types of individuals that you bring on as well. It kind of keeps me up to date on what are the emerging skills within the industry. What are the top skills? What are the hottest skills? What roles are being created as we continue to adopt new technologies and as we continue to move forward as businesses.
Yeah, I definitely have like a lot of underrated people like that'll be coming on the show soon, like all different types of people for that.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I asked you that too, because that's also an interview question, right? They'll ask, "Oh, hey, how do you keep up with cyber trends or whatever?" So
This is true.
I give like two easy short answers. Like, also, guys, you want to join my Slack space? I believe the link is always in the description, but I have a Slack space, right? And one of the channels is security news, and I had an RSS feed from I think NIST in there, TechCrunch, Bleeping Computer, Digital Shadows, Krebs on Security. It's a couple other ones, right? So it's kind of like the way, like if you just have like you can set up where you can go subscribe, have your mailing list, say, oh, I get all these emails from all these different places, and that's how I keep up with everything. Also, like we mentioned earlier, Reddit is a good place to keep up with trends. Twitter, like
Reddit's solid. Reddit is solid.
YouTube. So those are some ways
Yeah.
you can keep up. So you never know, what'll come up. Because, like for example, I don't know if you saw it, but I reposted on LinkedIn that hey, Kia and the Hyundai has finally like updated the vehicles that like people could just break in, and I think they could plug. If I'm not mistaken, the Kia boys could just plug a USB into the car and start it or something like that. I could be wrong, but I watched a documentary, a little short video on like how the Kia boys were stealing like all these Kias and Hyundais. Is they would just like get into the vehicle and it was like fairly easy for them to steal it. And there's another one of those
That's
risks.
scary.
3 years ago, my vehicle got stolen without them having to break anything. I don't know how they did it. They must have had like a sophisticated rangefinder thing. My car at the time. Well, now all of them like kind of like push to start, but they found my signal in the apartment, which where I was staying at is not super close to the parking lot. So I don't know how they like pulled the signal from as far away
Right.
like where my
From the
car
key
keys would have been.
fob.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they pull the signal and they have a clone right there. So it takes my signal. So the car mistakes it as that. Open the car, they start it, and they drive off. And that's how like they steal certain vehicles. But that takes a lot
That's
of money.
crazy.
But that's what they were doing. It's like I had a Nissan Maxima. I still miss that car. But
R.I.P.
yeah, man. That's her nickname was Maxine. Um
Shout out to Maxine.
but this is a good question too, because we kind of covered this already. We kind of covered the skills, but if you were to tell someone they need to get a certification, or what would you recommend type of certification for someone to get into a GRC position? What would you recommend for them to get? That would probably like help them fare better to try to land a role. Because there's a couple people I've seen in the comments saying, "Well, hey, I'm doing this right now, but I want to transition to GRC." Like, what would be some certs that like some fresh people could get that could help them out?
So for those who are new, so if you're trying to get into DoD, Department of Defense, having an IAT level one certification, and this is the DoD 8570 guidance on what certifications you will need to work on certain things. So Security Plus, if you want to get into DoD, Security Plus is a good one. Again, understand that content is much better than, getting the certification, not understanding the content. I just want to emphasize that. But the Security Plus, you won't need it before you get the job, but the expectation is once you get hired on for a role, you'd have to get a Security Plus within a 6 month time frame. That's for DoD. Now, if you wanted to get into like consulting, like Big Four, we're talking like Deloitte, uh, KPMG, we're talking what's the other name? Uh, forget the other names.
Ernst and
But like if
Young
you, yeah, yeah, EY, there we
and
go. Ernst and Young.
PwC.
PwC, there we go. So, if you wanted to get in those type of roles, GRC roles there, pursuing the CISA, I think is a good one. I have a couple of friends who work in that space that do, security auditing type of roles. And, the CISA, I believe, was a requirement for them to pursue to continue to do their work. CISA is a good one. If the C risk, I don't know how entry level that one is, but I think you might need a little bit more experience for that one because yeah, that one's a little dense. C risk, the certified risk information. I forget what it was called. C risk. And then there's another one with ISC squared. They used to be called the certified authorization professional. They now changed it to certified in governance, risk, and compliance. So that one you could also look into as well. But I think the main ones I would look into is either Security Plus, it becomes certifications, Security Plus, and also CISA. Oh, did you mute? Mute? Can't hear you.
Yeah, I did mute my fault.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying every time you said certified, I thought about certified lover boy.
Certified level.
But
Oh man.
so that's dope. So we'll ask this question kind of like, what is the most challenging part of working in GRC? Because me and you talked about this. What's the most challenging part of working in GRC, and kind of like, what are some of the challenges that you face that you kind of experience at GRC? And just say it, talk at a high level without saying too much.
For sure, for sure. So, so working in GRC, I've noticed the big challenge is when the there's like a wall between the GRC teams and the development or systems engineering teams, those technical teams. There's like a wall in between, and that wall is the technical acumen side of things. So I've noticed, even for me, I'm guilty of this too, that the GRC teams, they would say no, or they would poke holes at a problem, and they instead of just identifying the problem and being a part of the solution, the auditor just points at them and says, "Hey, you're non-compliant. Go fix it and go run away. Go fix it." And I think that type of way of working as an auditor, I don't think it's the most effective to improving the security posture of an organization. I think, when an auditor has the technical foundations, the auditor, like for example, if I'm a cloud auditor, right? Cloud security auditor, and I understand cloud, when I'm talking to cloud engineers, platform engineers, DevOps engineers, you know, when I'm talking to these individuals, they understand that, oh no, this individual is not just an auditor who's just trying to tell me how to do my job. This individual actually understands cloud, and they understand, what's going on. They actually speak the language, and now we can both, have a conversation that focuses on how can we solve this problem together, instead of me just coming in saying, hey, you have a problem, you have a problem. Like, imagine if I'm coming up to you, Henry, and I say, hey, your shirt is dirty. Hey, your shirt is dirty. Hey, your shirt is dirty. Well, can you get me a napkin? There's ketchup on your, like, I keep telling you there's ketchup on your shirt. Can you get me a napkin? Help me out. Help me solve the problem. I just don't think, as you know, in life, you don't want to be the person that's always pointing out problems. You also want to be a part of the solution as well. So I think one of the challenges in GRC is making sure that you're keeping up with technology, you're understanding the systems that you're auditing, you're understanding, the tech stack. And granted, as a GRC professional, you don't have to be as good as a software engineer when it comes to programming, but you also have to be able to read a line of code. You have to be able to, look at, you have to be able to understand what are our basic ports and protocols, right? What is HTTP? What is, DNS? What is Secure Shell? Why wouldn't you use Telnet? Why would you use Secure Shell instead? Understanding these things, when you're having these conversations with the engineers, it helps facilitate these conversations, and it gets you to a conclusion faster and much more effectively, instead of pointing at the problem and then running away, tell them to go fix it.
Yeah, man. Look, all that Thomas can you give me a napkin, and just looking at simple things that could be fixed that they are hesitant on. Not even the person you work directly with. It's following up command, and they're not trying to fix the stuff, or sometimes you have to do other people's jobs, and it just irritating. Let's not even forget to mention the meetings. I've been going like kind of crazy on TikTok lately, like stitching videos that I agree with. And I was talking about how like the meetings sometimes are totally pointless. Unless it's a meeting that I need to know, like fill me in on something, it's totally useless. And a lot of times I know in my previous roles, like I couldn't really even do stuff because like too many meetings, to where I was just like, I don't even want to look at the computer anymore. I zoomed out. That was the thing I think I talked about a while ago, like a couple years ago on the channel, about like how Zoom fatigue is real, and people don't understand that. or not to mention if they make you have to keep your camera on and trying to look at people. I think that's really no, like I don't want to do that. Like, please leave me alone.
No, it's like that. The laugh out of you over a period of time.
Yeah, man. Tell me about it. But I think I had one more for you real quick. This is one, and then we'll get on some other stuff. What kind of advice would you give to someone that wants to go ahead and get started in GRC, like right now? What would be what would you tell them?
I would tell them get on LinkedIn and connect with any GRC professional that you can and pick their brain. Uh, Also go on YouTube, look up GRC roles, try to do your research and understand what the role entails. I know online you won't get all the answers you might be looking for, but you'll get a fair amount. I'd also, if I wanted to get into GRC right now, I'd also look into, the different frameworks. I wouldn't, maybe reading through all of them is not the most effective use of your time, but understanding why those frameworks exist in the first place and understand how they ultimately help improve a business, I think that's pretty important. Understand too that, being a GRC professional, being a compliance professional, compliance, being compliant doesn't inherently mean that you're secure, but you have to remember these the security compliance frameworks, they exist in the first place as a bare minimum, because companies before these things existed weren't even doing the bare minimum. So in a sense it does improve security a bit, but obviously just being compliant doesn't necessarily mean that that your company is secure in a way that's most effective for you to continue to operate your business. So all that to say, definitely do research, connect with professionals on social media platforms who are in the GRC space, get to know them, get to know their stories, get to know what skills made them stand out and how they got into that. And then also make sure that you're doing research on your own, as far as what frameworks exist and what industries do I want to work in. Is it healthcare? Is it fintech, finance, banking? If that space, understanding the different frameworks there would also be beneficial as well.
That's dope. Focusing on industry is a real big one that a lot of people seem to kind of conveniently leave out. But let's talk about this. So, guys, primarily of Abdie's career has been in GRC, but now he has transitioned to the future. He's working in cloud as I want to say you're doing cloud engineering, or is it security cloud engineer? Which one is it?
So yes, I'm doing full-time cloud engineering, but there's elements of my role that does have cybersecurity in it that I have to be cognizant of.
Okay, cool. Because
Yeah.
one of the questions I had for you is like, what's a typical career path for someone like in GRC? And oh, I want to let you guys know this too. And Abdi, I think I told you, but those questions, well, some of the questions came from me, but most of them came from Chat GPT.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, man. Chat GPT
Oh
is very
man.
good at like structuring things. So if you need help structuring a paper or scripting out a video or making templates, email templates to send to people, or like it's very good at those things. To me, it's not good at some other technical things, but it's good at those things. But talk about that now, like because like I said earlier in the episode, I was talking about, hey, let's just get in and then you could pivot into something else. Because I think a
Mm,
lot of issues that the new people face is a lot of times they are trying to go after a role that they think they like, realizing they may not like it when they get it.
This is the
But
thing.
when you get in that role, you might find something that you actually like. And so, yeah, talk about that. Talk about like, how were you able to pivot from doing GRC roles to go pivot into the cloud? Did you have to, you know, get any certifications? How did you network to get in that role? Because also, a lot of times people reach out to me, yeah, I want to go do this job, blah, blah, blah. And I say, okay, have you talked to the people in your current security department at work to try to go there?
Hmm.
Because it's easier for them to hire internally than for you to go be external somewhere else. If these people already know you have a good manager that vouches for you, have you tried that? So touch a little bit on like how were you able to attain this, in a short time span? Because people, believe it or not, cloud hadn't been out that long. They might try to say you need all this experience, but cloud hasn't been out that long, especially recently. I mean, cloud really just heated up as well.
For sure. So yeah, for me, as I continue to grow in my GRC career, I realized there are a lot of, technical gaps in my skill set as far as, understanding cloud infrastructure and also looking at, where the industry is headed. So more companies, they're migrating their on-prem applications to the cloud. Now, there are different cloud strategies out there, right? There are startups right now who they're cloud native. Everything they do is running on the cloud. But, for companies that have been existing for a while, most likely they have like a hybrid strategy. They have some on-prem environments, but they also have a cloud environment as well. So it's hybrid, mix of both. So for me, I kind of looked at the market and I asked myself, okay, what skills, what's gotten my interest and what skills do I think, what I need to be able to, to compete in this marketplace and also have, I won't say job security. I don't think job security is a thing, but more like career security. That what skills, what skills, what skills will keep me employed? What skills can I, what skills can I charge for so I can continue to take care of myself and, continue to grow in my career. And cloud made the most sense. Cloud is, for those who don't know what cloud is using traditional IT resources over the internet. And, cloud is one of those things too where it's blowing up. It's blowing up. It's becoming more and more prevalent. More companies will continue to adopt that. So for me, I started doing research on, cloud service providers. I decided to go the AWS route mainly because they have the biggest market share. And also, you also have to consider, what you also have to consider if you want to pursue a cloud service provider, ask yourself, what is my company using right now? And I would go for that one. That way you can internally pivot to a cloud role. It's much easier, as Honor was saying, it's much easier to pivot into a role within your company than it is to go from internal to go into an external company because there's a lot more that goes into that. So I did pursue some certification in the cloud. I got the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner, AWS Solutions Architect Associate, uh, the HashiCorp Terraform Associate. Man, I might be butchering that one, but I'm butchering the name. But yeah, I got a HashiCorp one that's focused on Terraform. For those who don't know what Terraform is, Terraform is a tool that's it's an infrastructure as code tool to programmatically build out your infrastructure for cloud environments. And yeah, I pursued these certifications, I networked within my company. I'm also in a leadership development program at my company. So for those who don't know what a leadership development program is, it's programs where companies invest into their early career employees. And the idea is that these employees, they get, exclusive leadership development training from executives, from, high level individual contributors. And, they change jobs on a periodic basis. For me, I change jobs every year. For other leadership development programs, other companies, it might be 6 months, it might be 8 months, it might be 9 months. But if you're early in your career, considering a leadership development program, it might not be a bad idea to get to establish that strong foundation in your skill set for your long-term career. But yeah, I'm in an LDP program, so making that pivot wasn't hard, Henri, because I had a certification. And I told, when I'm having these conversations with managers, say, hey, I might not have the skill level you need, but I have all these other skills that could be a great contributing factor to your team. Working in the GRC space, working in the cybersecurity space, I leveraged that. And I said, hey, you might need an engineer who has a fundamental understanding of cybersecurity and how important that is as a cloud engineer. So, I leveraged my certifications, and mainly being in a leadership development program, that's also some leverage you do have, because managers are more willing to invest in you and take their chances on you for a role because you're in a leadership development program. And mind you, the leadership development program that I'm in, it was a very competitive leadership development program. I'm not trying to toot my horn here, but like had like 300, 400 applicants, only about like 25 got in the year I applied. So it's not easy to get into leadership development programs from my perspective. So companies see that you have potential. Companies see that you have potential, and they invest on that potential. So, when you're in these type of programs, it gives you a little bit more leverage.
That's dope. That's dope, man. If everybody looking at me scrolling down, I was listening to you, but I was trying to find something. It's this meme that I seen on LinkedIn that I had posted on my Instagram, and I think
I love the memes.
it was the one. It was talking about how AWS is make a body. Here it is. I found it. Let me. I'm gonna share it real quick because it's funny. It's one of the things where like shout out to Miosha. We had the episode about cloud support engineering, and even though she loves
Nice.
AWS, she advised everyone, hey, Azure is probably easier for you to start to learn because it just the stuff that's in Azure makes like more sense. We'll just
Yeah, I think the services they name them, right? The way they name the services actually makes sense for what it is. Whereas AWS, the
Mhm.
naming is just all over the place.
Right. Let me see if I could I know I could find this like this.
And
Um
Azure's heating up too. I just wanted to share that out. Like Azure is heating up like crazy. I'm seeing more and more job postings with Azure. So you can't go wrong on picking one cloud service provider, but Azure's catching up. It's catching
Here
heat.
it is. This is like AWS. I got cool names for my services like green grass and beanstalk. And then Azure, I name my services after what they actually are so people can understand. And I
Oh
think
man.
that's facts, man. I think that's facts. But that's dope that you said that and how you were able to pivot. And salute to you for beating out a lot of the competition that they see a leader in you, right? I think that's a lot of things people don't understand. Is like one of the things that you're getting out of this is also visibility. And
Yes, lots of visibility.
in my advanced your cyber in my it always give me in my advanced your cybersecurity career course on LinkedIn Learning. Go check that out. By the way, I talk about how you can do that, getting more visibility by presenting and showing your knowledge of things, become the subject matter expert, so you can move around or work with these different teams, so they can also start vouching for you. Because that's what helps you out. When everyone else goes to like your manager and then over them is like, yeah, that guy, he's killing it, and you're new. Oh man, it makes all the difference. All the difference. Let's get into. We had so many questions. I'm gonna try to see if I can get them. Like, shout out to the chat, man. Y'all really been rocking with us today early on. I know you guys got a lot of stuff to do on a Saturday, so I appreciate y'all for that. Let's see. Uh, we had, I know one person was talking about where she's at. I think she was a nurse. I didn't show this one, but I'm showing my guy again, Master IT. Y'all go follow his channel.
Yo, shout out to Master IT. I actually use some of his courses for my studies, and his YouTube channel has so much value. So much value for people who are trying to get into technology. I love the way he teaches too. He teaches
Yeah,
like very like
direct.
very direct, right? It's not vanilla. It's not bland. He has a little personality in there. So yeah,
Yeah,
shout out to Master IT.
that's the Detroit in him, man. That's the Detroit in
He's
him.
from Detroit. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Shout out to the good folks in Detroit.
There's one guy said, well, Guan family. I can't say it like how y'all said, man. I don't know how to say it like y'all, but I know exactly how to interpret it. I'm 18 with 3K saved. What should I do with it? And should I go to college?
Ooh,
That's a loaded question.
that's a loaded
No,
question. Like
no,
loaded.
and yes. It depends on what you're going to college for. I would advise you, like I tried to advise my baby brother, hey, go to community college first because it's going to be cheaper. And those community college courses come with like certifications a lot of times. So you can have some certs
Mm,
out of those courses and possibly go to a bigger university, maybe even get a job before you're at the bigger university. Finish, let your job pay for the school pretty much. That's what I'm trying to say. So try to figure out, leverage all your options and make the best decision for you to where you don't have to like come out at 3K because 3K for an 18-year-old is a lot to be saved, especially when you're being 18 and your earning
yeah.
potential somewhat capped because you don't have that many skills yet. So I don't want you going out there just burning the money just to go through school and possibly still have to go find a job. I want you to kind of be strategic in this. And I have a video on my channel right now, like how to get in cybersecurity in 2023 with no experience. Definitely check that out. That'll pretty much kind of answer your question on how you should move and what you're trying to do. What about you, Abdi? Any advice for him?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, man. Going to community college is a cheat code, and if you qualify for financial aid, even better, right? But
Yeah.
just
And he
understand it,
probably will.
you know. Oh
And he
yeah,
will.
yeah, most likely, So and being 18 with 3K saved up, I didn't have 3K saved up when I was 18, so kudos to you for being disciplined and making sure that you're taking care of your resources, your money. But yeah, I think going to community college and landing a role, you could definitely do that by getting the appropriate education and certifications in community college. I think Henri, I think our friend Day did that. Day went to community college and he's been killing it. For those who don't know Day, that's Day Cyberwalks. What's his YouTube channel, Henri?
It's Day Cyberboss. Day is a superstar, so everybody knows.
Day Johnson. There we go.
Everybody knows Day Cyberbox.
Yeah, so that's what he did, and I've seen other students do that too, and
Yeah, that and
it really gets you
WGU.
ahead. It really gets you ahead.
So EJ NYC says, "What's a good way or platform for entry level GRC folks to display their talent?"
Good way to display that talent.
I'll kind of go first.
Mm.
Shout out to my girl Destiny Stanton. We had a consultation this week, but even before that, she reached out to me like weeks ago and just asked to do. She went to my channel and saw what I said to do in that how to get in cybersecurity with no experience, and she's been killing it. She'll come to me and I'll say, "Oh, maybe you should like try doing projects and stuff like that." So every time like she's on LinkedIn, she's worked on a project or something over the weekend where she's detailing what she studied and she's making the project. So she's really marketing, documenting, which helps when it comes to interviewing because you're going to remember more of the things that you learned by documenting your journey. So you can always show off with your own like website, portfolio, and just start doing things and implementing things, and just also asking people in the field, hey, what are some things I can learn? What are some like realistic projects I could do that would resemble something that I'd have to do in this job in actual, in the real world? Like, what are some things I could do for that? And that's how you figure out how to platform and how to display your talent. I take it as you agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely it. For GRC roles specifically, what you could do is you could go on the DISA website. So for those who don't know what DISA, that's the Defense Information Systems Agency, and they have these things called security technical implementation guides and security requirements guides. So they're called STIGs and SRGs. You could download these STIGs and SRGs on your computer, and it gives you guidance on how to harden your systems. So what you could do, let's just say I have a Windows operating system. I'm gonna download the Disastig, the security technical implementation guide for a Windows operating system, and I could go through each control and harden my system. And when I'm in an interview, I can talk about, yeah, I downloaded these, security, this security guide. They had different, security controls based off of various NIST publications, and I was able to harden my system and make sure that my system was, cyber secure.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. Pretty smart. Glad you told him about that, because shout out to my guy. He been in the chat all day, Professor Black Ops. He's talking about Stigs all the time. I was like, man, I ain't never dealt with Stigs before, but he's to bring it up because he's been in the game since he been like in 30 years. I think he's been in the game, man. So
he's seasoned.
Yeah.
Shout out to
him. So King says it's 50 to 60K, a good starting salary with 10% annual bonus for a fully remote incident analyst. So we're looking at either 55K or 66K. It depends on where you're at. I would probably say I honestly would say it's hard for me to tell you if you're not making that now, it's hard for me to say that's not a good salary for you. I would just try to research and see if that's their first offer. I will always negotiate because you just always negotiate. But I would assume this is like a maybe incident response role. I would probably say lean closer to that 70, 80 mark for that role of that magnitude. That's what I would say for entry level.
Yeah, I think that one. Yeah, if I'm making 20K or 15K a year, 50 to 60K, that jump is big. I'm not saying I'm not saying that's how much you're making right now, but it just really depends. And also, like, it depends on the role too. Like, if you're working 80-hour work weeks, I don't know if 50 to 60K is with a 10% bonus is gonna make sense. Again, when you're on a salary, a lot of times you don't get paid overtime, but again, it really depends. Like, I'm not doing. Let's say I can get a job that pays me, 250K, but I'm working 90-hour work weeks, 100-hour work weeks. I don't know if that's the most effective. That's most effective for my mental well-being and my health. And I don't know if my mental health or my well-being is even worth that much. You can't really put a price tag on that, right?
Yeah, man.
So
that was the benefit of, like, when I used to work at Optiv. It was so dope was that we didn't get overtime, but they gave us holiday adjustments if we worked on a holiday. So pretty much it was like
that's amazing.
Time and a half. So and the holiday would be dead. So I was just volunteer for all of them. Easy money, man. So that'll be a good check.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got. Shout out to Samantha. She's been trying to get into GRC role. I need to follow up with her. She was talking about when we was talking about that ride.
Yep, Netflix. Shout out to Netflix.
So Adam Nicole says, I'm a nurse trying to transition into cybersecurity. Is the GRC route a good starting point? Yeah, I mean, you work with HIPAA a lot already. So I definitely would look in that. It's a lot of things that nurses have to do protocol-wise that could transfer over. So I definitely would probably look to stay in healthcare and try to transition into GRC doing something in healthcare. That's what my advice would be to you, because you already know the industry.
Yeah, straight up. I agree, Honor. That would be the greatest play you could make. Getting like your cybersecurity role, you have to look at it as a game of probabilities, right, Honor? Like, you have to look at it. There's not a magical bullet. There's not a certification that's going to guarantee you a job. There's not a degree that's going to guarantee you a job. It's a mix of different things, but you're playing a game of probabilities. So the reason why Honor and I keep saying, look at your current industry, because the probabilities you land in a role within your current industry, given that you have a background in it, is much higher, right? So
it makes more sense for them to hire you. Somebody asked, was your GRC role work from home?
No, I was in the office for most of it. Then obviously with the pandemic, I was working from home for about 8-9 months. And then, after that, I got into doing classified cybersecurity work where
you have to be on site.
You have to be on site. So if you want to do any classified work, understand that the probability of you being on site is very high due to the nature of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, man.
But now I work full-time remote, so I like it. It's cool. I'm doing cloud. I do full-time remote.
Let's see. All right, this is an easy one to answer. Is there a lot of GRC roles within the federal government? Yes, they are.
Plenty, plenty. I'd say also though too, like GRC roles, there's much less competition in comparison to a SOC analyst role.
Mm-hmm.
Like the SOC analyst roles, Andre, when I look at these job postings, my God, the competition is fierce.
Yeah, man.
Fierce.
I've been doing this
It's
for a long
crazy.
time.
Because they want you to know so much stuff about it. Who is this right here? Torn between GRC and cloud security. I have a background in email security. I like to write, but also like cloud security and advice. Remember the old Morpheus meme? What if I told you? What if I told you you can do both? What if I told you you could be in GRC and work with the cloud? Because the cloud has its sort of like even reviewing policies for the cloud. Something simple as making sure, hey, the SOC and everyone else is notified when someone makes an S3 bucket public. As small as that is, that can turn into a big event if it's not checked in what's going on in the environment while it's in public. Even though after years, I think AWS came out talking about, hey, we will finally be making buckets private, by default, which they should have always did.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But shout out to AWS for making that change. We love you.
Right. Let's see.
Yeah.
Who else in here? It's like a lot of people said something. Is it tough to pivot out of GRC? What skills can be transferable? We kind of talked about that earlier. And the reason also why I say you still could be technical in GRC because I say roles like well they have a whatever the Venn diagram is, but I feel like they fit in the scope of being in GRC as well. Red teamers, vulnerability management, assessments. Technically, they are doing things according to seeing, hey, what's vulnerable, what's not. And they have to do it based on whatever the frameworks of doing these things. Hey, this thing says this needs to be, mitigated or patched or done like this. So you don't necessarily have to be the person that's writing all day, even though some of those fun roles do require you to write reports. And that's why you got to be writing. But now you got Chat GPT. It can help you out. It can help you make a default pen test report and other things you may need to cover. But just be leery of, and this is what I want to tell people too with ChatGPT. Don't put your confidential company information in there. You don't want it to have access to that. So always try to get specific enough, high level enough to where you can just copy what it gives you and then you can use that at work. Don't put your stuff in there.
Yeah, great point, Andre. So I would say with is it hard? Well, that really depends. It depends on where your current skill level is at. So if you were a person like a GRC, like a security auditor for on-prem environments, and now you're trying to go to cloud, yeah, there's a learning curve there, understanding, what cloud infrastructure is, what are the different, tools, common tools that are used in a cloud environment. So there's a learning curve there, yes, but I think, the cool part about it is working in cybersecurity in general is that once you land that first role, because by the way, the first role is the hardest one you'll get, in my opinion. But once you land that first role, it's much easier to pivot into other roles. So I wouldn't say it's hard to pivot into other roles. I would say it's the learning curve is dependent on how much existing knowledge you already do have. But is it doable? Yes, it's doable because I've done it.
Yeah, man. D'Amico's Chamber says, what key skills would you suggest for those without a degree to work on in their labs to create strong enough cybersecurity skills to get hiring managers' interest? For me, that depends on what you want to land. Like, that's why I tell everybody, hey, what job you want to land? Focus on that. And normally when they do that, they're a little bit more successful because I can't just say, oh, go learn this and this, and you're not trying to do that. You have to go learn the skills on the job description. That's your study guide. That's your cheat code on how to get there. You do that, then you can start networking. That's why the biggest thing I tell everybody, when you're at a deficit in talent, skill level, networking is going to be an equalizer. People like to work with people they like to work with. If someone doesn't like to work with you, you won't get hired. It doesn't matter how good you are. Everybody got to say yes when it comes to getting that offer. So remember that. Remember that. And that might be a video for another time. This
Yeah, I
person
agree with you,
here,
Henry. That was good.
Syed said, I'm working in non-IT job. Is cybersecurity the right choice to aspire career in IT industry? I would say for you, you have to figure out what's your why. Do you want to do that? Or like once you figure out why, then you figure out if it's good. But there's definitely still an uptick in the need for cybersecurity jobs. But you just gotta figure out what you want to do. Let's see. We're getting close to the end now. Uh, Judah says, "Can you speak on how AI is affecting GRC or anything to keep an eye on?"
That's a good question. So I'll be honest with you, I've not been tapped into much with the artificial intelligence space, but from my minimal knowledge, we're going to see more automation, more tools when it comes to GRC. The thing is, you have to remember though that, with artificial intelligence being introduced, you have to ask yourself, what skills do I have, that how can I use artificial intelligence to supplement my current line of work,
Hmm.
right? You have to really understand that what parts of my job can be automated, what parts of it cannot. There's always this human aspect of working in GRC that in my opinion that cannot be automated. I just don't think there's human aspects of our line of work that automating it would not be effective. That's just my opinion. Again, I don't have a bunch of data, research, and diagrams backing this up. But I recommend though, if you are going to be working in GRC and you are contemplating thinking about artificial intelligence, you have to make sure that you understand that there are parts of your job that could be automated, like the audit itself. But like, I don't think we're near that yet. I think there is some time before we get there. But also, you just have to be cognizant that you have to ask yourself what parts of my job cannot be automated, and focus on those skills, those people skills. You know, let's just say the audit portion. I mean, there's already tools that are automating audits already, but like, let's just say, you know, you know, like the creation of policy is being automated. Well, is there, you still need someone who knows that policy through and through that can speak on it, right? The person that communicate with different stakeholders as to why, hey, this policy is significant for our organization. Here's why. So there's always a human aspect of our jobs that I don't think is ever going to go away. But I will say there is a lot of automation coming, and we just have to make sure that we're skilling up and making sure that we have to asking ourselves, how do we make sure that we're not as disposable as we can be. I don't know. What do you have to say about that, Honor?
No, I agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
We got this person. Let's go. Nick says, as a mailman, what can I put down on my resume to show some skill? Just like I was talking about the other roles about compliance things you guys have to follow when delivering mail. Like I know for people that deliver to apartments, certain things like people can't be in the mail room when you're putting the mail in. And there are probably other things that you guys have to do. I can't answer that off the top of my head because I think I've only worked with one person that's been like working for the postal service. I actually have to really sit down and look at like your day to day, what you do, and see actually what it correlates with, so I can actually tell you, okay, these things will transfer over there. Um, and you've been doing this for like 5 years, so you can highlight that in the interview. But then what you have to show skill in is the things that you want to do. So you have to go through and learn those. And I'm gonna sound like a robot saying this. That's gonna be like 99.9% of my answers when it comes to what skills or how do I show skills or what should I learn. I'm gonna tell you that like every single time. Let's see. Um, can y'all speak on which career pays more, going cyber technical route or GRC? I mean, but that's the thing though. It's like that's a very nuanced question to answer because I've seen some GRC roles that pay a lot of money, and some of them can pay a
Hmm.
lot of more money than a technical role, and vice versa. So I would say it depends on factors of company, need for the company, how valuable is the skill set when it's supply and demand. So those are, I think, the things that kind of come into mind when it comes to like, hey, what's the benefit of this? Because think about it, there's a lot of companies like if they go through breaches or things happening, they go out there and get those GRC folks. They either hire a company to come in and do those audits or seeing, hey, what happened, what we need to get better on, consultant, and they're paying them a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it really depends. It really depends. I think it depends on the company and the structure because at a big four, you're probably making a lot of money out of them because they do that a lot. A lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with you, Henry. You have to keep in mind too that there's combination. You have to look at combination of skills that are very unique, right?
Yep.
So let's just say you have a lot of technical acumen, like you know automation, you know how to script, bash scripting, Python scripting, and you're really good at compliance as well. That combination of skills of understanding compliance automation, oh my God, you'll make a lot of money because there are not that people who have strong business acumen, strong GRC acumen, but also understand the technical side as well. It The more niche your skill set is, the more you can charge for your money. So as Honor said, it really depends, but you have to ask yourselves, what skills do I have and what combination of skills do I have that is very unique? Because I'll tell you this right now, having strong technical acumen, because the best GRC professionals I've seen have strong technical acumen, but they also have great business acumen as well. They know how to communicate, written communication as far as verbal communications as well.
Dope. I was over here looking at some questions. We're gonna answer like two more.
Okay.
Uh Derek L, we kind of just answered that, so we won't cover that. We just answered that question. Um Khalil Crypto, we've kind of answered your question too about what kind of role you should do. So I don't think we're gonna ask that just because we can't really answer that for you. It'll be based on what you want. And if you want to go to a lower barrier entry type of industry, GRC would be that. I can tell you that just because everyone still doesn't know about it, but
Hmm.
it might be the best fit for you. This person said, what would be transferable skills for someone with a property management or administrative background to get GRC? I think it's the same thing as other roles that I talked about. We got property management or somebody that has an administrative background, right? You guys have policies. You have to enforce on the tenants, things when it comes to them, strict guidelines when it comes to them applying for apartments. Um, a lot of different things. I had to research all property managers do. And I didn't want to just minimize property management to apartments, but also like probably managing people's like real estate portfolios and stuff like that. But there are different things that you do that could transfer over. Same thing with administrative background. So you do have those things.
Hmm.
Um, let's see if we got one more. Okay, someone says, do you think idle project management and Scrum Master are sufficient complements to GRC? I mean, I would believe so. I believe they help, especially idle. I think
Hmm.
that would help a lot. Let's see. Okay, it seems like we don't that now that people just having conversations in the back, which is cool. Let me do this for our viewers real quick. All right, guys. It's Saturday. We're not trying to keep y'all out here too long. Abby, you got any last words you want to give the viewers right now?
Yeah, so for those of you, who are trying to get in that first role in cyber, that first cybersecurity role, and you're trying to go the GRC route, just understand, cybersecurity is a competitive field, right? You have to understand that, getting that first role is not easy. Anyone who's told you that it's easy, either they're an anomaly or they're lying to you. But it's not easy. It took me 8 months, 8 months of me applying for jobs to finally get my first role, and that was during my senior year in college. I've seen some people get their first cybersecurity job in 6 months. I've seen a few people do it in three, I've seen a lot of people, it takes them more than 6 months, you know, of working hard and diligently. So understand that, you know, good things take time. And if this is something you do want to pursue, understand you're gonna have to pay the cost up front, make that investment, and you know, eventually, you know, you will get the outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah, man, that's dope. Somebody asked us about DBZ versus Yu Yu Hakusho. It's a toss up. I mean, it's not a toss up. I
It's
think
it's,
the story in Yu Yu
it's tough.
Hakusho is way better, and it's shorter and more
Yeah.
concise. But DBZ is just so nostalgic that it's hard to count it out. But also, guys, you've been looking at the ticker on the bottom of my screen. I'm talking about my extra wallet, and this is it right here. So it's pretty cool. Got a little button, pops my cards out. Um, my cards, money clip. It's very slim for the fellas, so you can put this in your pocket. Like my analytics, a lot of guys watch this. So if you're tired of a bulky wallet, check out the Extra wallet, extra.com. Use textual chatter to get 35% off on that. And yeah, you'll be styling and profiling. They'll be like, "Oh, I like your wallet." um, but no, man, like always, man, I appreciate everybody that showed up from LinkedIn or YouTube, showing up to support the channel. I hope you really took a lot of value out of this episode. Be more to come. Probably have Abdie back another day where we might have. Let me, since everybody's still here right now, like there will be times on the channel where I might eventually start just streaming me playing the game, or it might be a time where Abdie and I are on here, maybe just talking about our favorite animes, you know. So there will be other things I will do on the channel to where we'll actually bring up maybe some people in the chat if you guys want to come up. So those are things I am planning on eventually. So you know, just sit back and keep on supporting, and I definitely got y'all. But like I always say, man, I appreciate everybody for supporting me, and for the future listeners, make sure that you go ahead and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Really helps out the growth of the show. And yeah, man, we just need the reviews. All these people that watch on YouTube, we need y'all to leave the reviews in the podcast streaming apps, you know, so I'm saying, so we can grow some more when it comes to the downloads. But as I always say, man, let's stay textual with your boy HD, and I'm out.